So what we're doing today is creating a shawl cuff, right, from scratch. So you're gonna see the whole process, soup to nuts, although no soup or nuts will be harmed in the process. For that, I've got my cutting templates up here. That's for small. Now, these ones I created initially when we only had the one design, which was the half round ends. But now I just basically use it for width. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut a piece off of this blank, which we're almost out of. That is the right length, so that'll be 6.5 inches. Should be. Let me verify, and it is. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start with 6.5 inches. I'm essentially just going to mark it, and then we'll cut it. Need to make some room here because this is not something to cut on. We're just going to move that over. Let me see some little edging scraps from previous job. So let's see, that'll put us right about there. Get a knife. Nothing special about the knife. It's just a razor knife, right? But we are going to want to cut the end square. So that's why I'm using a square to do it. Just about there, it looks like. Now, obviously, this piece is wider than I need, but it'll get trimmed down. Okay, that's clear. Now, I will cut this to width, which I believe is about 1.25 inches. Yep, just about. So we'll mark our edge. Set up our square again, this time just using it as a straight edge. Okay. So this is now the piece that we will be working with. So the order that was placed was for a full half round edge, so it's going to have these types of ends on it. So what I went and did is I picked up a bunch of washers that I can use of different widths, and they will allow me to get different curvatures on the end that I want to use. Like, let's say I just wanted to do a slightly curved end. I could use this guy, this big guy, about 2 inches across, I think, maybe bigger. And he would just let me round that edge just a bit, and it would come out just a bit rounded, or maybe a little bit tighter. Like this one's almost the same width as the piece. It's maybe a 1/4 inch, maybe 3/16 of an inch wider. So that almost gives me that full round end. So this guy might, yep, this is the actual width. So I'm going to use this as my cutting guide. I've got it right up to the end. And that way I can just trace around it or cut around it essentially with the blade. And hopefully that'll give me a nice well-shaped end on this thing. Okay, so it's kind of a rough cut at this point, but we'll be shaping it a little bit more once we get the sander up here, and then we can get it more finely shaped. Now, ideally, we would be using a template, like an actual cutting template that you could just hammer down onto this thing and it would cut these ends out. We don't have that yet. We're still in the startup phases of these little guys. So it's all done by hand at this point. At least the cutting is. You know, once we get into the shaping and burnishing, then we'll start using the power tools. Okay, almost ready for the sander. Okay, so here's our rough cut ends right now. So this is our rough design. So now we're going to move to the sander, which I haven't set up yet, so let me do that real quick. I actually have a couple of them. I like this one because it's more stable and it's somewhat more practical for what we're trying to do here. All right, so we're going to take our rough cut piece. It's going to be hard to hear, so I'm not going to talk, but you'll see what I'm doing anyway. So that's not too bad. Got it fairly even on both ends. And again, the irregularities are basically due to this being handmade. You know, that's part of its charm, I think. I think I'm going to take a little bit more off of this one just to sort of even it out a tad. That better. All right, so we've done our sanding. We shouldn't need to do much more of that, if any. So now what we're going to do is called edging or skiving, and that will essentially round off the edges on the top and the bottom all the way around, and that prepares it for what we call burnishing, and that's where we smooth the edges and it gets that shiny finished look. So let me get my cutting tools. Lots and lots of cutting tools. This is our edger. We actually have several of them for how big of a rounding edge we want to put on this. So let's see. You can see that the cutout at the end of these is slightly different size on each one of these, depending on how much we want to take off. So I'm going to select this guy, I think. Not too aggressive. You'll see as I go around how it just takes a strip off. Yeah. And actually, if you remember at the beginning of the video, when I moved aside the black pad that was here, you saw some of this sitting there, this leather spaghetti, because that's from previous jobs that I was out here doing where I had to use the edger. Now notice it doesn't come off as easily on the ends because of the curvature. And it'll be even more difficult when we flip it over and start doing the backside because the backside doesn't have this nice clean outer surface. So it's not going to come off as smoothly and in one piece like that one did. It's going to be somewhat more like these rounded ends, we have to do it in pieces. But it's necessary because you're not just burnishing the top surface, you're burnishing the top bottom surface too. Now this one, because it seems to already have a burnished backside, you notice it's kind of shiny, that probably will make it a little bit easier to edge. And look at that, it does. All right, so that's a nice thing. So if you have a belt in your closet, which, you know, most people do have belts, if you flip it over, chances are you will see that it has a burnished backside. I mean, most of the belts that I've had certainly do. And that burnishing, because it sort of compresses and maybe even hardens the leather a little bit, that makes it much easier to take the edges off of the piece when you're trying to round it. All right, so our last step before we start putting the hardware in is to burnish the edges now. Now, we used to do this by hand. And like most things done by hand, it's a pain. And this is a hand burnishing tool. Notice it's got different width roundings cut out of it, these grooves. And those are meant to fit over the edge of what you're trying to burnish. So I would typically use either the last or second to last ones because of the thickness of the leather that I'm using. As you can see, you can put something very, very wide in there, like several layers of leather together that have been stitched together, and then burnish that with this. But what I'm going to be using is one of these burnishing bits for a rotary tool. Probably this guy. So I'm going to pop that into my rotary tool here. And then we are going to get some burnishing wax. It's really just beeswax. Good for so many things. All right, so I'm going to pop that in there. Find my burnishing wax. It's right here. So got some good old beeswax. There's a happy little tree on one side. Isn't that lovely? Yes. All right, so what we do is we're just going to, and we can actually heat this first if I wanted to, but I'm not going to bother with it this time. We're just going to rub a bunch of it on our edge, and then we're going to burnish it with the tool. So just going to start rubbing on it. And it leaves a little bit of a deposit of it there. And this should help. So the idea of burnishing is what it does is it essentially takes all of these fibers that you can kind of maybe see and lays them all in one direction and sticks them down with the burnishing wax in this case. There's also burnishing fluid. You can use water, various things. Okay, so there is our finished strap, all burnished up, and now we're going to put our hardware in, so our snaps. We just got a brand new snap setter, which we're going to be trying out for the first time here.
some new leathers too that have just come in.
Oh yes, some beautiful ones. This is actually more of the well, it's not quite the cognac. It's a little different, but it's a little bit browner. We have a lighter brown. This is a nice thick one, and then we have some that's totally undyed. So, you know, we can always play around with maybe doing dyeing on that one. And we are all going to explore this snap setter together. Oh look, it comes with antique brass snaps. That's useful. Anybody want bright brass with theirs? Probably not. Okay, these look like nickel, so that's not bad. And these are stainless.
Yeah, the nickel looks matte.
No, not really. It's just a different. It's a different color. It's got almost like a slightly yellowish sheen to it, whereas that's a pure silver sheen.
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna have to figure this thing out on the run. So these are our snap bases. It looks like interchangeable. So yeah, basically a vice grip with a repurposed jaw. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna stick one of these things in there. Oh look, instructions. So useful. All right. So, the next thing we're gonna do is actually punch the hole. How silly of me to forget that. So here's our hole puncher. Guess what it does?
Punches holes.
That's what they say. So, these are good snaps. See, that part of the problem that we've run into in the past is that our snaps would be kind of wimpy. Looks like the one that I've been using looks like a good one. This thing makes it very easy to punch holes. Much easier than it used to be. So I'm just going to pop one right about here. Make it nice and centered. Chomp. And another one right here. Make it nice and centered.
I have a puppy dog trying to lick my ankle.
Chomp. Okay. So we've got our two holes punched for our snaps. Now, it doesn't really matter which end is which, but I think I'm going to make this the outer end. It's just a little bit cleaner than the other one. So I'll pop that guy there. And this guy here. Let's see, is this long enough? This might not be. This might not be long enough. Yeah, I think we can make that work. All right, so now we have to figure out these guys. Okay. Looks like we are going to want this, I'm guessing, for the outer one. Yes, okay, good.
Yeah, this is a new snap set, so we're having to
I have guessed correctly.
figuring it out as we go.
And we might even need to redo the snap. You know what? Let me check this snap against these new ones, because if these new ones have longer stems on them, then they would be better suited to this. Because that's actually part of what we've faced in the past. Is that the stems are too short. Yeah, I think these might be a little bit longer. So let's try these. And honestly, this should be able to work with this. Yep, sure does. Okay. But let me see, we got it out of here. We'll actually go with what we're supposed to do. We just got to find the right piece. Okay, here we go. So, should go together. We go together tonight. Like this. Okay. It just gives us a slightly longer shaft to work with, so that when it's bound together, it will connect more solidly and give us a better, tighter crimp. So beautiful. He says so beautiful. So this will then connect over like that, and it'll look like this when it's done. So let's get the mate to this. It should be this guy. Okay. So now we got to change out our platform here for this guy. Should be. It's funny, it's got a little thing in there. I don't know what that's for. Wonder if it's trying to tell me you can't use this like this. Okay, well, how am I supposed to use it? Very strange. Let's see, I guess it's supposed to be offset. Very weird. Okay, so now we are going to take this guy, pop it through the back. Y'all thought snaps just showed up on things, huh? Nope, somebody's got to do this. I want to clean up this hole a little bit. Okay. Oops. Part of my problem here is that I never sweep my floor in here. Makes things hard to find when I drop them. Actually, I might want to go with a slightly larger hole punch for this. Yeah, that's good and wide. Okay.
So it's kind of like a paper punch, but made for leather.
That's right. Let's see, make sure this is high. Should be. Yep. So we got that. Just double over. Okay. So, assuming that I set this thing up correctly. There you go. Squish. Crunch.
And it goes flying.
And there we go. Nice and set. Oh, so beautiful. So beautiful. Now that is one finished product. There you go.